Welcome back to the Azrant, where I'm sure to go on about some sort of topic, and today I got to thinking about how, after finishing Kirby and the Forgotten Land, there were some changes that I would have made to how the game works so that, a future Kirby 3D outing may be even better than the first one. And, let's start there. My overall thoughts on the first one, without getting into the nitty-gritty details, were, yeah, it's Kirby in 3D, and it's fun. I like how they handled the collectible Waddle Dees. They did a good job of encouraging exploration and hiding secrets. Much like in the typical Kirby fashion, but, in 3D. I'm glad they were able to translate what worked about 2D Kirby into 3D. And, of course, a lot of the set pieces were very nice as well. But all that said, there's not really anything else positive that I'm gonna say without getting into spoilers, so let's get into those changes that I would make about the game. These are little things. They obviously don't ruin the experience, but they're just stuff that I thought about, some design decisions that I questioned just a bit. So I'm gonna start with the first one that comes to mind, and that's copyability upgrades. On the surface, the copyability upgrade system is very cool. It makes you feel quite powerful. It adds another collectible thing to the mix, which is the blueprint. You need to find the blueprint before you can make the upgrade. It also gives you a reason to take on the time trials with each ability because you need the rare stones that you get as a reward in order to perform the upgrade. Not to mention, it gives a good reason for collecting coins in the stages because you need those too. Everything comes together around this copyability upgrade thing. So it sounds great, right? Here's something I'm not quite a fan of with it. The upgrade order is very strict. When I heard about these upgradable copy abilities, I thought, oh, well, if I want to try out the upgraded fire ability, then that'll be cool. But if someone else wants to try out the upgraded ranger ability, then they can do that. And we can have our own experiences and be like, we can have these exchanges of like, oh, did you try this one? Oh, not yet. I have upgraded this one first. It would have given a bit more of a social experience to the upgrading. And just with everything being 3D and open, that part is surprisingly linear. You will find the blueprints in a certain order as long as you're finding all the blueprints. And if you really want all the blueprints, you can talk to the Wise Waddle Dee to make sure that you've got them all at various points throughout the game. So, good thing they let you know if you missed any. But, with that in mind, unless you're missing them, you are bound to unlock the copyability upgrades in the exact order that they want you to. And I understand that decision to a degree. Like, let's say the first two abilities that they allow you to upgrade, those might be the two abilities that they put in the boss stage for World 1. I'm just going off the top of my head there. I'm not exactly sure if that was the case, but I feel like something like that happened. Where, okay, the first two abilities that I could have upgraded are now the options that I have for this boss. So, it incentivizes you to get those upgrades. And so, okay, we're recommending these upgraded abilities for the boss, so hopefully you have them. At the same time, though, they didn't need to put those two copy abilities in that boss. That was a deliberate decision on their part. So, yeah, they compensated for their decision, right? But they took away that little bit of customization from the player that they could have otherwise had. And that's a little disappointing in a game where, compared to past Kirby's, the copy ability count is very low. there's 12 in here, and 2 of them are not exactly full-fledged abilities. It's kind of cool what they did with them, but they're not really full-fledged abilities, so you really have like 10 abilities in this game. And they're well thought out for 3D, and it's good for the transition and all that. But you don't even get the freedom to pick which one of the 10 you want to try out first for upgrade. You're gonna see the abilities in a certain order based on how they're given in the stages, and you're gonna see them upgraded in a very specific order based on how they're given out in the stages. So, again, being linear in and of itself is not a flaw. It's just why set it up as a shop if you're not really gonna be able to pick and choose? In a way, you're able to pick and choose. Like, you could just skip an upgrade and save up for the next one if you want to. There is that element of it. But something just felt off about it to me. So here's how I would have handled that. And, of course, I'm not a game designer, so my suggestion here will probably introduce a bunch of other problems that would need to be fixed in order to compensate this decision, but I'm gonna do my best. What I think should have happened is there should not have been blueprints in the first place. Rather, if you want to make it so that you need specific... How am I trying to say this? Rather than blueprints, what I would have done is, since we have the copy ability challenges, I would have incentivized the player to play a certain challenge in order to get that ability's upgrade. For example, if I want the ice upgrade, then I would need to beat the ice challenge. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, doesn't that limit the player even more than what you were just saying? And in a way, you're right. But here's my whole grand plan for that. Rather than having to worry about an extra collectible in the stage that will give you one very specific ability and you're not even sure what it's gonna be until you get it, give the player more specific parameters so that they can have that little bit of freedom to do things how they want. So, instead of just getting a rare stone at the end of the stage, I would make the rare stone more specific. So maybe at the end of the ice time trial, you get not just a generic rare stone, but a rare ice stone. And in order to upgrade the ice ability, you need rare ice stones. Plus the money, of course. That gets rid of the blueprint, which makes the whole process feel a little less clunky. And it's directly rewarding the player. Hey, you wanted that ice upgrade? You proved that you got good with the ice ability in that time trial? Here you go. The rare ice stone to upgrade that ice ability. Repeat ad nauseum for the other abilities. Now, like I said, that introduces a different problem, which is the developers included trials for mouthful mode. And you don't upgrade your mouthful mode stuff, so what would those time trials have done? What purpose would they have served? And to that I say, that is where they could have kept the generic rare stone. So perhaps, to upgrade an ability, you would need its specific rare stone, plus a generic rare stone, and the cash. Now, that goes against what I was saying before, against the whole clunkiness bit, but with the blueprints, the reason I feel like that's a little clunky is because you never know exactly when a stage is going to have a blueprint, and you can check after the fact with Wise Waddle Dee, but in that moment, you don't know exactly what you're getting into, if you should really be on the lookout for a blueprint or not, and you don't know which blueprint you're going to get. At least with this alternative method that I'm suggesting, you know you need to go to that specific time trial stage, and you need to go to any of the mouthful mode stages to get a generic stone. And that also offers a little more choice because, if you keep the generic rare stones at those stages, then a player can choose which one that they actually want to do to get the generic stone. I don't know, perhaps this all sounds better in my head. I'm not calling it a perfect solution, but that's more along the lines of how I imagined it. Now, back to the copy abilities, though, for a different thing that I would have changed outside of the upgrade system. It is a little disappointing that you only have the 10 abilities. 2 of them are new, and so that's fun and flashy and cool. The others are 8 that have been reworked into 3D for the first time, and it's nice to see them back. But it does feel more limited when the game is just about as long as any other Kirby game. If not more so, because you're really pouring through these stages looking for everything, if you're a completionist type like me. Where that leaves us, though, is it feels a bit lacking in variety, so that's where I feel like the upgrade system could have come in, but it also introduces a different issue, and that's the transition to 3D has simplified the moveset greatly. So you have less commands to work with because you're not in the 2D plane anymore, so the developer can't exactly tell you to do a bunch of directional input nonsense to change your move. Because all your movement is being used for 3 dimensions now. So I get that that had to be cut down. The issue is that despite having less combat abilities, the game doesn't tell you any of them, except in very specific situations. So if you go into a time trial and they expect you to use a certain move to get through it in time, they'll tell you about that move. Like, that's where they'll tell you with the drill ability, if you go in a circle, you'll create a little blast inside. The game never outright gives you a chance to find out about that before that trial. And that's if you even do that trial. And there are ways to find out about your moves in the game. The main one is to talk to the weapons dealer at the upgrade shop for a bit about the moves that come with specific upgrades. So I did turn to him regularly, but I know that not all players are that diligent. And if you played any of the past Kirby games that are like in the modern era, like think Return to Dreamland onward, there's a recurring feature there where if you pause the game, you can read your moveset. Everything you can possibly do is spelled out in writing. There's no guesswork. If you want to know about a game mechanic, it's in there. They actually also had boss descriptions on the pause menu if you pause during the boss. Those have been relegated to collectibles. I've seen some people say that that's not an ideal solution for that. And, I'd agree, because it was a nice tradition to be able to read up on what this boss is in the moment and then proceed to slash it to smithereens. So, I mean, they could have kept it. I really feel like the pause menu could have pulled more weight in this game. So they could have kept those descriptions and just had the figurine descriptions be different, or not do a figurine description for them, or have it be the same, give you a way to reread it without fighting the boss. That would have been fine. So I don't think it would have been too much work for the boss description, but mainly the moveset. It's not as big in this game, so it would not take them as much time to write it out on the pause menu. Like, hey, with this ability, if you hold the button, this happens, but if you just press the button, this happens. Oh, but with this specific upgrade to the sword, if you do this sliding motion and then jump, then you can do this combo. Right? Again, that stuff is lying in the game somewhere, if you're super diligent, but it shouldn't be hard for a casual player to access. I certainly got by. I've played enough games to know what's up and to talk to people and to really taking the experience, but this game is drawing in a lot of new players because it's a fancy new 3D platformer on the Switch, which is a hot selling system. So it's a little unfair to them, at least in my opinion. Is there anything else I would change about Forgotten Land? Any other criticisms I would make? To that I say, not too much. Most of the story happens at the very end, but that's typical Kirby fare. I've seen some people criticize that aspect of it, that the story doesn't do much until way at the end. But I was expecting as much. And it's a big payoff. So, I'm gonna let that go. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. And let me know what you like or would change about Kirby and Forgotten Land down below, because I'm here, I'm listening, and you've listened to the Azrant.